Welcome, guys and girls, to episode, I don't even know anymore, 7, 8, something, 6, 7.
Six.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Supposed to be on the
Episode 6.
even. Supposed to be on the even. So yes.
Welcome to episode 6 of Bros with Brains with myself, Aaron, or ESC, Elite Strength Coach, and Mr. Ben Mayfield, who doesn't know how to do an intro properly. So
we're called Bros with Brains, but we can't even count to 6 or start properly.
Pretty much. It's just bros with no brains. That's how we should probably call it now. So, Benny boy, what's been happening? Apparently, our lockdown got extended for another month. I've only just found out because I've been on podcasts all fucking day. So that's fun.
Hell. You guys, I tell you what,
all right.
wear your bloody masks.
That's what it is.
Ben just got about 20 DMs straight away, being like, "You're a piece of shit."
Don't be that guy.
I'm kidding.
I'm actually trying to find the info.
Things are good up here, man. Everyone's, as far as I'm aware, besides the scuffle on the border and trying to decide where we push that line to, apparently that's causing a bit of issues. The cities on the towns on either side of Tweed are a bit pissed off because apparently one side of the border can see shops open, the other side is like fucking boarded up and what do you call them? Tumbleweeds growing through the town. So yeah, it's that's causing a bit of an issue, but man, we're good. Queensland has nothing to be complained about as far as I'm concerned right now, really.
Yeah, that whole border issue is really, really stupid in that you have the closest hospital is on one side of the border, and like a lot of like healthcare and essential care is closer on one side of the border than the other. It's like, I feel like that's a real no-brainer.
Yeah, I heard there was a case. Yeah. There was a case. Someone had to get flown to Newcastle Hospital because they couldn't come to the Queensland Hospital because they're on the other side of the border, but they had to come through the Gold Coast airport to get to Newcastle Hospital. So I was like, come on, guys, kind of fucking up here. It's like, really, I can see the premise. Like, if you extend the line like 10 feet back and you go to like the Tweed River where there's like literally 3 cross points, then you're probably a bit like smarter and people can sort of function a bit normally. But hey,
it's like, I don't like, where's the logic? It's kind of like someone's in trouble. They need help. That's closer. Go there. It's not fucking rocket science.
Yeah, it's when the intent is good but the execution is poor. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Let's just figure it out. But I mean, hey, we're not the COVID podcast. So besides Queensland
it's just funny because I had the announcements when I was in a podcast. So it's kind of like, Victoria's restrictions will remain until 70% of Victorians have had at least 1 dose of the vaccine. Playgrounds will open with strict rules, while an expanded travel limit, 3 hours of exercise and more will kick in at the vaccine threshold. So cool.
There you go.
So nothing changes, in other words.
Okay. I mean, Sydney's got pushed to what, end of September?
They'll open up before we do.
You reckon?
Yeah.
With those fucking numbers they got?
Oh yeah, they'll still open before we do, 100%. Dan Andrews is a fucking moron. But anyway, like she's not much better, but at least she'll open the place much sooner than we will.
Fair cop. Man. What are we doing this week? I mean, we've got finished with deload blocks, so back into training. So tapering back up from probably like week 3's numbers, just to start a bit more relaxed than just bursting straight into the block. So body's a bit more rested and a bit more relaxed, which is good. For some reason, I just needed, I don't know. I think this was we extended the block about 6 weeks. Like Dot wanted to see some self-regulated deload. And so I ended up getting about 6 weeks in the block, but I just, the numbers I was pushing versus my joints was like, okay, probably take a day down.
It's like you just wake up tired. Okay. Ben tight. I go sleep.
Yep. I was like, all right, 107, 108 and Ben being tired, big boy needs a rest. let's take it down a peg. It was actually funny. One of our customers came in and he's a good bloke. He's one of those dudes who's like in the bodybuilding world, but he just loves training. So you don't get like over exaggerated opinions and bullshit like science from him. Just comes in and chats. And he's like, he's been where I am. So he's walking around 120, but he used to be in the hundreds. And so, he's like, dude, I understand you're at like that 108. You're sort of looking to try and get to 110. Yeah. He's like, you feel tired now at 108. And so it's funny just seeing like mind you, he's 6'3", so he's a big boy. Yeah, and right. So he's like a little bit of like height discrepancy, but he's like, I see where you're going. Like, he's like, I know how you're feeling because I've been there, and you watch it happen each time, and you get that sort of increase in weight. Then you start to feel sluggish and tired. And the next minute it's like, that's your new baseline. That's your new homeostasis there. And you sort of progress from that. So it's interesting seeing him when he comes in, because every time he comes in, I'm usually a bit heavier, and he's just chilling at fucking 120, walking around, 10% body fat as you do.
Yeah. Dickhead. Still fat.
Yeah, he's still fat.
10% still fat. Fucking James.
See, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly right.
But yeah, so I was like, that's always a good time when he comes in. I'm just like, yeah, man, look, some days I just need a rest. I just need to chill. Back pumps go crazy and weight goes up, and I'm just like, yeah, let's just ease up.
Man, I've never understood this whole back pump thing. I know so many people, when they gain weight, they get these massive back pumps. Honestly, even when I was in my gaining phase and I got to like 105, 106, I don't get back pumps. Like, I don't know what this sensation is. And I don't know if I'm like lucky or if I'm just doing something wrong. Like, am I just not training in extension enough? Like, I don't get it. I don't like, why don't I have back pumps? I don't get it.
Growing enough?
Maybe. I mean, my records are quite fucking strong.
I mean, why aren't you 115 then?
Because I'm in a cut, dickhead.
I mean, when you're growing and you're not feeling back pumps, that's the criteria. I'm not grown enough until I feel back pumps walking.
That's it. I'm gonna put that in my check-in. Joe, we're gonna grow until I get back pumps. It's just that's I've been told. That's how it is. But anyway,
I'm a pussy even back pumps.
Even doing like high rep deads and then followed by like RDLs or something, like, because doing my own programming is stupid. It's like no back pumps, like none at all.
I think mine's a mixture of the compensation of like back injury mixed with rapid growth. Of course, calories and just feeling like sluggish. There's a few things that compile that is just like just existing is like back pumps. So I was like, all right, cool. I mean, it's fun. I love it. It's the existence of extremes that I get to be in that I enjoy the polar aspects of life, I guess you'll call it. The dualities of existence I get to have is I appreciate the extremities of growth because I've spent so long being so hungry. And then I get to appreciate the extremities of growing because I spend so long in a cut. So it's like, there's no mediocrity existence for me. It's just like, all right, let's push one end to the other and let's just see what happens and let's see where it goes.
Let's just go to extreme to extreme and fuck it up.
I mean, basically by looking at the photos that I found today that I shared on my story, there was one photo of me like 3 years ago, and it had more of I got called a footy boy physique from when I first started. Like, I say first started, but I realigned myself, I guess, with competing and getting rid of girlfriends and stuff, and just being like, this is what I want. Stop giving in to what you don't want. And then, I was like, all right, cool. 3 years later, it's like 110 kilos and like just quadruple the size. And I was like, yeah, well, I guess living in extremities works.
You've pretty much heard it here first, guys and girls. Ben doesn't want to get laid. So just in case you're, wanting to slide in, don't bother. He's not interested. He's only interested in if you can do a bicep curl at the same time. No.
No. Look, if you're going to distract me from my training or my studies, then I mean,
you have a solid 30 seconds and
you have a 20-minute window at 11:50
and 30 seconds. So you got 4 rounds in. Go.
All right.
What are we talking about today? You seem to be a bit jovial in this topic, and I'm a bit concerned as why you're so happy about it. But anyway.
No, look, I think it's something we can both have a within our fields can both have an opinion on and experience with in regards to excuses. So in terms of like, let's put it in a non-directional emphasis regarding him in particular, but we'll say coaches and the excuses they make in terms of like, I guess let's preface it with clients not getting results. It's their fault. They didn't stick to the plan. They didn't do this. The coach not taking responsibility. Then you've got the other side of the coin, which is clients blaming the coach. Everyone else has a reason why they failed. Like, my friends didn't accept that I was competing or training or dieting, and therefore it's their fault. And my coach is shit at programming. It's his fault. Instead of introspection and looking internally at, why it didn't work out, if you will. Mostly to preempt the ramble is that, and we'll both get a lull out of it. I saw a post last night regarding someone that I know for a fact has done like 3 or 4 attempts at competing, extreme existence in calorie deficits, over surplusing, and just not periodically training correctly, consistently trying to prep, not being able to due to stress and hormones and God knows whatever else ends up being an excuse. And then I saw a post regarding the story was, hi, if you or anyone you know has experience in underactive thyroids, please DM me as I think I have an issue. And I, like, judging on the photos I saw, very out of place in terms of like not being to be competitive where you would want to be at the close stages to prep that she was. And seeing that post, there's a very easy correlation to make that someone somewhere is insinuating underactive thyroidism is the reason for that, I guess, outcome. So that prompted me to bring up this concept of excuses made by either side of the coin.
So yeah, guys and girls, so when you're wondering where we get our rants from, it's really just Instagram, because
I mean,
short of posting naked photos of ourselves and, you know, Q&As just to see what you guys want to know, it's really good for content to just talk shit about. No. So
well, I mean, it's not just talk shit about it. It's also like it's the fact that it's out there means that it exists and people actually think these things. So I mean, if we just let idiocy be idiocy, it keeps to exist. Yeah, you can't at some point have to interject and say, well, it's pretty dumb.
Well, it's an interesting thing in that, like, if you're doing back-to-back preps and all that sort of stuff as a client and not taking the responsible time post-prep to bring everything back to normal when your body's looking for homeostasis, which is just baseline normal, and you use previous bloods from when you were healthy, so pre-prep bloods, for example. So if you're going to go into like a 20-week prep, maybe at that 20-week mark, get some blood, see where you're at, and that's going to be, we'll call that your normal. And then you go through the prep. How long after the prep can you get back to a very similar, back to similar levels in the blood? So that would include thyroid health, effectively, as well as a ton of other markers. That's when you know you're back to normal. But the thing is, when you get back to normal, what you need to do is you need to hold normal. Your body will fluctuate. So just because you might get one day, like the day you get your bloods, and it's like, oh, it's normal, I can go back to a growth phase or into another cut, for example. It's like, no, you then need to level out and maintain what your current normal is. So it's kind of like, you know, you do bloods 20 weeks out, check everything, do the 20-week prep, post-comp, you might do, say 8 to 10 weeks post-comp, get your blood, see where you're at. Let's just say, for argument's sake, 10 weeks post-comp, you're normal again. You then probably need to hold for another 10 to 12 weeks. So that 10 to 12 weeks, you probably get bloods again to make sure you're still normal. And then from there, if you want to grow, if you want to cut, then you can start to look at it. So prepping can cause, obviously, like a ton of issues, including thyroid issues. So the person in, you know, the person in question could have a very downregulated thyroid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, has the person put a plan into place to go back to some form of normalcy? Has their coach put that plan in place with them, if they have a coach, that is? And, you know, how soon after they hit normal will they stay normal? So it's like they need to be normal for a period of time. So like what's causing people to blame certain things like a thyroid problem? It's like, why? Because you're gaining too much fat? It's like, were you really lean? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? It's all context dependent. Yeah,
completely contextually dependent. I mean, you then look at, like, let's say, for example, people just jumping straight to things like hormones being the I don't know the word to describe it, the shortcoming of their cut or their, you know, body recomposition. You know, it's because of I had high estrogen, or because I had, you know, a failing thyroid, underactive thyroid, whatever it may be. But you also then have to ask that person, you know, where are you in terms of your consistency, and where are you in terms of your commitment? Now, you've set a pretty big goal here. You've set, you know, you've gotten to a coach and you've set something pretty big. Like, even if it's not competing, let's just say it's just recomposition in general. Yeah. Let's say your goal is weight loss and your goal is fat loss or something like that. Now, you may say that I've dieted for 20 weeks, or I've dieted for 5 years, or I've dieted for 7 years, and, you know, you consistently bounce back, or you consistently don't get results. And, you know, I'm a hard cut guy, or, you know, I'm a hard gainer, or whatever it might be that the excuse you come up with. But this is where having data is important, because if you aren't tracking those things, you can't make that conclusion. But yet it's so quick for people to make that conclusion. It drives me insane when, you know, people mock us, for instance, or, you know, it's a mock us, but struggle to understand the lifestyle when we keep track of everything. We keep track of sleeps, our general food cycles, our general supplement cycles, our general training cycles. Everything's sort of kept in data because we can manipulate information. But then it also provides us with reasoning as to why something may or may not work and what we can adjust. Now, if you aren't doing that and you're just simply saying, oh, it's because of my thyroid or because, obesity runs in my family or this disease runs in my family. Yeah, like cool. Those potentially may exist and that's a possibility, but are you doing everything in your control to offset or mitigate those, I guess, factors? Because
so are we talking about like, so this person in particular, for example, or this example in particular, are we talking about the person hasn't hit their goal and they're blaming an underactive thyroid?
That's the conclusion I would draw from what I've seen.
Okay. Was it that, or was it like an underactive thyroid due to dieting? You know what I mean? Like the opposite. So it's like post-comp, like my thyroid is fucked up. So it's like, well, yeah, it's going to be down-regulated for a while. That happens.
I mean, both. Let's play out both. But in this instance, I would say the lack of achievement and desired look would be because of thyroid. That was the implication I drew from it. And the thing that gets me then is though, like, where are you in terms of acknowledgement of responsibility? Where are you taking the ownership of what happened? No matter what else goes on, to some degree, ownership has to be placed on you. As a client, you have to take some responsibility of the consequences. A coach at the end of the day can outline the world's best plan, can outline the world's greatest, most optimized programming planning that suits your lifestyle, that suits everything. But if execution is only 70 or 80%, that's suboptimal. Like in terms of like a comp prep. I mean, 80% isn't suboptimal for Gen Pop. That's great actually for Gen Pop. Comp prep though, if you're trying to really optimize your chances of succeeding, you're really not executing. But then to jump to conclusions like hormones, drugs, genetic factors or predispositions, that's the reason why I didn't get the look. I feel like that's a slap in the face, but also kind of disrespectful to yourself because you're really not being honest.
Well, but I mean, it's a pretty easy fucking check. Go get your blood test done and check your thyroid levels. Well, like, I really don't. Yeah, like it's hard. Like people go and turn into social media looking for doctors on social media. It's like, go get a blood test. Like
just go out.
You go to the doctors. I feel like my thyroid is just not performing properly. Can I please have it looked at? Sure, no worries. It's really not a hard. Like I don't get it. I feel like it's just really stupid, to be honest. Like the logical side of it it's baffling to me. It's kind of like, why would I turn to Instagram and say, I think I have an underactive thyroid. Can someone slide in and give me some advice? It's like, yeah, go to the doctors, get your blood test.
Yeah, I mean, and we've been here before, but I mean, like, let's say underactive thyroid is the outcome. You're looking at a downregulation of metabolism of like what, 10 to 15%, depending on the magnitude of like underactivity.
It depends how bad and how bad the actual thyroid is performing. But at the same time, it's like if the person's mid diet, getting pretty fucking lean, it's like, yeah, your thyroid is going to be underactive. It's kind of normal. It's kind of happens.
Yeah, that's a normal outcome.
Yeah, it's an acute thing that will bounce back once you start giving yourself more energy because that's what it requires. So
yeah. And then that's the other side too, is then you look at like, say your post-diet phase or what have you, and things like, oh, my thyroid's down, that's why I didn't get the look and what have you. And I've been dieting for 20 weeks. You also have to just consider the downregulation of metabolic output, your decrease in metabolic expenditure, because that's where we see those people start increasing, without the coach's acknowledgement, without the coach's instruction. Oh, I felt like I'm just still fatter, so I did extra bike work, I did extra volume, I did extra junk sets, I did extra junk reps. And it's like, we can't track that. We can't understand what part of that is actually the cause. And that new data that just came out that everyone's blowing about on the internet at the moment, the increase in expenditure actually shows a decrease in metabolic output. Is actually, energy expenditure, decreased energy expenditure. Yeah. So I guess a downregulation metabolic output is actually pretty profound, because that's going to show that just simply adding extra volume of intensity and extra workload isn't the answer. But then you get people doing it because X hormone didn't work, or, I didn't feel like I was lean enough, but then they're running themselves in the ground, feeling like shit, causing stress responses, causing all sorts of issues in that regard, holding weight still, probably storing more fat, and then saying, hey, it didn't work. The coach was the problem and he didn't know what he was talking about. You just did all this extra stuff that no one told you to do for a reason. And then, you're passing the buck.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I have not much more to say, to be honest. Like, pretty much agree. I think we have a very similar mindset on that. Like I said, for this person, like this example in particular, I just don't understand why it's kind of like, yeah, I think I have a down regulated thyroid. It's like, well, one, you don't need to share it with everyone on Instagram. Nobody really cares, most likely. And then two,
Yeah.
it's a really easy fix. You literally walk into your doctor's office and ask them to check for your thyroid, your thyroid levels.
Like, I mean, just to clarify, it's not an attack on her in particular. It's the fact that this is a common occurrence, and it's a very common sort of disposition that the external is more responsible for the outcome than the internal, and there must be something going on like this, and therefore put it out to the world, and someone's going to give me an answer. But it's kind of like, I want the answer from someone to tell me that it's not my fault. I don't want to just check the answer. Yeah, it's like you can just go check the answer. Just go. Like, no doctor is going to say, sorry, I'm not giving you a blood test for your thyroid.
If you genuinely believe that you have a problem with your thyroid, the doctors would be more inclined to give it to you. If you just walked in and said, I just want to get a blood test because I don't feel right, they won't know what to look for. So if you have some background information, just say like, oh, I've been dieting down and blah, 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 blah. And I think my thyroid's just not functioning optimally or where it should be. They'll check it straight away. They just need a reason.
Yeah. And generally from that, you will either get a yes or no, and you will get either thyroxine or a T3 or a T2 type substance that will say, okay, you're over actually stimulated or you're understimulated in the thyroid. Let's medicate it, or reverse out of dieting, get back to a balance that's healthy, and reassess the situation with your coach. Stop just making up random shit and adding your own solutions.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason why you have a coach, right? Like, you're not supposed to think like, you're supposed to have someone, especially in the deeper ends of prep, when you're not thinking straight. That's when your coach is there, and that's what he's there or she's there for. It's just like, hey, you chill out. I've got all the thinking in place. I know what we're doing. You just do what you're told. It's pretty straightforward.
Interesting though. Like, let's continue on that path. You've I guess we'll say you've failed dieting. You've not been able to adhere to diet. You've not been able to adhere to programming over the years. And you are someone that bounces and cyclically lives through these diet phases, but then come to having a coach, and all of a sudden you're questioning them, or you're adding extra stuff or making your own decisions after paying for a coach. Why? Like you're at that point where it's like you've not to disrespectfully attack anyone. Let's say the person example, you've not been able to live. Like, you've not been able to execute it in the past. However many times you've tried to self-regulate and do it yourself and sort of like program yourself, and it's not worked. You haven't addressed the behaviors or the issues that land you in a reoccurring fat loss phase or fat gain phase, put you back into a diet challenge or a 12-week program. And then you've got a coach who's going to help you through it, but then you undermine them by just simply adding your extra stuff and changing your own data and adding extra food or adding some extra bike work or doing extra sauna time and all this jazz. Why?
Yeah.
No, where does that level of like, that level of, I guess, not entitlement, but self-authority that's failed in the past is now undermining the coach whom you're paying for to help you?
I completely agree. And like, for me, I'm very fortunate. I don't have clients that do that. They don't, if anything, they over-report and tell me when they've done something wrong because they think they're going to get in trouble. And I'm kind of like, you know me, like, I'm pretty flexible. Like, sure, you want to go do it as long as it doesn't affect A, Y, and Z, A, B, and C even. It's like, well, I mean, I'm tired already. Fucking, affect A, B, and C, then we're good as long as we hit the daily tasks and hit those small weekly progression goals. If you want to do extra for you, do it for you, but you don't need to do it because I think you're not where you should be or need to be. And I don't think you need to do it for any other reason than if it makes you happy, then do it. Like, from a mental health perspective, if you want to do an extra set, like I've got clients now, especially now, like obviously in COVID and stuff. Like, I had a client message me this morning. He's like, dude, I want to do more. Guys, looking at my photos, I think I need some more like back, bicep, and tricep. And I'm like, look, I'm the coach. I'll tell you what you need. I'm not disagreeing with you because you do need. Look at me. Yeah, it's like I'm not disagreeing. You need all that and more, but if you want to get technical, like, you need everything.
Welcome to bodybuilding. You need everything.
Like, you need all of it, but we will do that in a cyclical approach over time.
Yes.
He's like, well, do you mind if I throw some extra bicep work in as we go along? And I'm like, you know what? Do it. If it affects recovery and it affects your ability to hit the next workout effectively, then we may have to look at taking it out or changing a few things. You want to do an extra 2 sets of biceps, like on your 2 days? Go for it. We'll get a little bit of benefit, maybe not much. We might just get a touch. Cool. If it's not going to affect the recovery status and affect your ability to execute the next workout, go nuts. Don't care. Like you feel good, I feel good. We're on the same page. We get it. Like no stress.
Agree.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's kind of like if he doesn't tell me that that's what he's doing and then his recovery goes to shit, but I don't know he's doing extra work. It's like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Like at least be open and have that open conversation with your coach. Otherwise, what's the point of paying them?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then like, I guess on the flip side of that, we've got coaches who do nothing but want to blame the client or blame clients or blame their outcomes or their shortcomings or their failures on nothing but the client, when I am completely all for the fact that a holistic approach means that responsibility falls on both parties. I agree with that. Well, I think that's normally, if you get in the nitty-gritty, that's probably a rough estimate of the case. If there's a general failure of ability to reach the goal, either the client hasn't been, I guess, specific enough with the coach to understand the goal to set the program in place, or the client hasn't executed the outlined plan by the coach that's based on the goal that's been set. But besides that, we've got coaches who genuinely pass the buck. And I see it like, especially in the bodybuilding world, where it's like, you know, you didn't get lean enough because you didn't suffer and you didn't just eat chicken and broccoli and brown rice for fucking 12 weeks or blah, 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 blah. Okay, bro. But there has to be some degree of ownership that goes back on the coach, because let's be honest, if you're a coach in 2021 and you're setting programs based on what you believe is the best potential path for the client without consulting them and just simply say, this is it, go do it, F off, I'll talk to you in 5 days, you're an idiot.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, well, yeah, I got nothing else to add to that. Yeah, you're stupid. Like, you know me, man, I'm pretty straightforward. It's kind of like, yeah, like at the end of the day, what I don't understand, if someone's paying someone, like, why wouldn't you just listen? Otherwise, just do it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And by all means, yeah, for sure. I agree. Like as the client, if you have sourced out this person and that is the model that they practice and you've sourced them out and paid them, I guess like listen. And then like, if that's not how it works for you, find a coach who's more suited. But at the same time, if you're stuck in those oldish ways and, you know, old is best and all that sort of jazz, and you get bogged down in that sort of like, look, this is exactly what I'm telling you, and this is all there is, and there's not going to be not even like a discussion between coach and client, it's just simply, this is it, shut up and do it. Then part of the reason the client doesn't reach that goal, you can't then just only share your wins on Instagram, I guess. Like, you know, the 3 or 4 clients who did make it, you can't just share them when you've got 20 or 30 clients who pulled out of your program and pulled out of
didn't do it. Yeah.
Didn't do it, couldn't follow through, couldn't understand what you're talking about, because that's not coaching. That's just you getting 4 people who luckily grinded their way through a shitty program.
Yeah. And it's funny. It's like even before that, in the process of finding a coach, when you consult with them and stuff, just make sure that your goals align. Like it's something so small and simple. Like I've had heaps of inquiries, not to toot my own horn, but like a ton of inquiries where we don't match up. And I just sort of said to the person in the actual chat, I'm like, hey man, like, you know, you're entitled to do what you want to do and all that sort of stuff. It just doesn't line up with the way I run my processes and how I go about coaching. And, you know, if you want to work with me, it's kind of like, this is how I go about it. If you don't like it, that's fine. Like I'm not offended, but you're better off than finding a coach that will align with what you want to do. And it's like, I've had girls who are competitors like 3 weeks out from a show, like, me and my coach don't align. Can you run me through the last 30 weeks of your prep? And I'm like,
oh God.
Yeah. And I'll sort of look at them. I'm like, you're not ready. Or like your coach is doing a great job. Stay with him. Like stay with her. Like you've got 3 weeks to go. Like, I don't know where you're not aligning, but you look great. So do the show. Or it's like, hey, like you're not ready. You're not going to be there in 3 weeks. If it was up to me, I'd pull you out. Like if you want to work with me, you wouldn't do the show. Yeah. And then it's like, they're not happy about it. I'm like, well, you wanted my opinion. You came to me. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't need your business. Like, I appreciate you know, thinking of me for me to coach you, but you're thinking of me because you've seen something that I put up or that's appealing to you, which is great. But if you want to go through me and through my processes and methods, well, this is what it is. If you don't like it, that's fine. See you later. Like I'll handball, like I'll recommend 5 other coaches for you. Yeah. Yeah. So I agree. Something so simple. It's just like, I feel like there's so many coaches that do coaching consults, like they just want to take on anyone and everyone and not understand that it's like, hey, you know, it's the best interest of the client that if it doesn't work with you, then it doesn't work with you. And that's okay. You're not here to make every single person on the planet happy because you can't. Otherwise you'll be miserable.
Yeah. And you also go broke trying to, like, you can't physically have the time, the demands, the energy to coach people who don't align with you, and also for clients to be coached by someone they don't agree with.
Yeah.
Like it's a duality of the process where you aren't sort of on the same page. You aren't in, I guess, like a harmony of the execution. And it's just going to result in like disputes, aggression, frustration, animosity, like begrudged relationships between each other. Like and I guess I know for a fact in the bodybuilding world, there are extremity coaches, and they are just nothing but all guns blazing. And whilst I don't agree with them, I also know for a fact that everyone's well aware of it. And if you seek them out and go to them, I mean, that's on you, and you didn't really do your due diligence, and that doesn't align with you. Or if you get halfway through and you're like, oh, actually, it turns out I'm dying. Well, then, that was on you to go there in the first place. There are other methods, like getting a coach and also having a coach who aligns with your values, your goals, your best interest, not just your best place or your best outcome, is obviously optimal for both parties, because the coach gets a great outcome. The coach gets a client who is going to be willing to listen and discuss and engage and take on what he's saying or she's saying. And the client is going to get a coach that's going to willing to, I guess, meet them in the middle, discuss the options, have an outcome that suits them, has a time frame for the plan they want, and that sort of thing. And it kind of removes the potential for excuses from either one, because then you're more in line with, like, the boat's going in the same direction. You're both on the same boat, it's going the same place. You're going to get there eventually, however fast that is or whatever, depending on the plan, whatever. But when it's like, it was not in line and there's friction and there's forces between it, just conflict. It's like, there are other coaches, there are other people. Like, it frustrates me a little bit. Either side. That's kind of where I felt like bringing it up, is that there's a pass the buck mentality, but no responsibility on either side, that frustrates the shit out of it. It's not even just coaching for bodybuilding. It's coaching in general. Yeah. When I see people go through general weight loss programs and all of a sudden it was the coach's fault because they didn't understand how their body worked and they're intolerant to gluten and dairy and cheese and all these other stuff and whatever else these excuses are, that cause inflammation, which led to water retention. Okay. But then you've also got coaches who are setting these profoundly stupid, 12-week programs or whatever, that are just like, you've got nothing but chicken and broccoli for 12 weeks for someone who just wants to lose 5 kilos and feel better in a bikini. Like, that's. No,
I mean, like I said, I completely agree. And it does go both ways. Like, if the coach is notoriously known for being a dick, well, the client probably should do a bit of research before they go to their coach. And at the same time, if things don't work out between coach and client, it's kind of like, well, just move on and don't be scared to say, hey, this isn't working. Like, it happens. That's kind of life, right? Yeah. It's just like any relationship, whether it be a friendship, coaching relationship, whatever it is. Sometimes it's just not working. There's nothing wrong with it. People move apart. It's like, get over it.
Yeah. I mean, I see two parts here. It's like, if it fails, if it doesn't work out, both parties just take responsibility. Just take ownership and go, this bickering of, like, the industry's so small. And so the bickering that comes through of, like, this coach was a piece of shit and they said this, or this client didn't fucking listen, they're terrible to work with, because, you also left out the fact you told them to take 20 mils extra of drugs that they didn't take, or you also admitted that, failed to admit that as a client, you didn't want to give up drinking or alcohol. And this coach said, hey, look, you drink 3 or 4 times a week. Let's cut that down to 1. And you said, I don't want to do that. And then you blame the coach. It's like, come on, guys, let's take some tell both sides of the story. Exactly. Take some ownership. But it also, it balances. I wrote a blog on it. We find the smallest margin of excuse to excuse our shortcomings and failures, but we don't look for the smallest reason to keep going, which I find in this generation is quite interesting as a topic in general. Like, to give, I guess, an example is that, you might, as I've said, like, someone might find, 90% of the research and data says you can still lose weight if you have an underactive thyroid. You can still get great body composition. You can still get a great hypertrophy response. You can still build a great structure and get lean. That 10% window is all they need to justify not doing it and not getting there. But then in reverse, when it comes to, like, I want to be a 3% bodybuilder on stage and I want to get shredded and I want to, get to nationals and place in the top 3. And someone says, well, you've only got a 5% margin for that. Like, probably not the thing. Everyone's like, that's fair. I'm not going to try anything now. I'm not going to bother trying. So it's like, our excuses when they're in the minuscule, I guess the 99th percentile, we'll jump at that for an excuse. But when the possibility of the outcome is in the 99th percentile, we're like, not today. Not really for me.
But then it just does show you that those things, if you want it, you'll do it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's really that age old, you want it bad enough, you'll do whatever you can. Like we spoke about, I think on the last episode, it's like, you'll jump over hills, fucking, you'll go through mountains. You won't even go over them or under them. You'll go through them to fucking do what you need to do to get where you want to be. That's why there's only such a small percentage of people that do the extreme and do it well. It's because that there's only that many people that can actually handle it and do that. That's why it makes it that much more special.
Yeah, and I guess in that same token, it also comes with that, I guess, that removing that armchair couch hero. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to be those things, or you don't want to, I guess, attack that 1% possibility of making it, then you don't get to dismiss the people who do, and you don't get to attack the people who are doing it. You don't get to criticize and ridicule. We know you will, we know these people do, but I guess morally and ethically, you shouldn't.
Yeah, well, it's like that saying, if everyone was perfect, then by definition, no one would be.
Yeah.
Same, like it's the same thing, right? Like if everyone does the same thing, then it's just boring and it's not worth it. There's nothing special about it. So it's like having those selected few that can do the extreme and do it well. It just makes it so much better to watch and appreciate, really.
Yeah, it aligns with one of the concepts from philosophy that I enjoy around Nietzsche is that his aspect on like the herd mentality, because the herd is safe. The herd is like the way he sort of prefaces, I guess, is that the herd is, I guess, society in general. It's easy to be in the herd. It's safe. It's secure. No one stands out from the crowd. No one tries too much. It's generally humanity is stuck in this position of just not mediocrity, but we've reached a very basic in existence of like sort of evolving and striving and trying to do more. And then we get, as I discussed in episodes prior, the Ubermensch, which is like that ultimate sort of, I guess, the Superman or that next evolution of humanity. Mm-hmm. Those that step out who try to, I guess, live that way tend to be ridiculed and mocked and brought back in by the herd. And it's like, yeah, your excuses are like, the excuses are used to justify being in the herd because it's safe and you feel content. But then you also use your insecurities to attack the people who are trying to do that next step or achieve that next level. It's like, I get it, but it's a projection of insecurity that just frustrates me because it happens way too often. And it's all like, it's not for a positive, like you're not constructively helping someone who's trying to strive forward. You're sort of like looking at where, I guess, your comfortability is in not trying, and you can rationalize not trying because it, whatever reason it may be, whatever excuses there are. But then you're attacking the person who is for a negative reason. It's like, man, it's just
you're bringing them down to make yourself feel better about yourself.
Exactly. It validates the fact you're not trying.
Yeah, just because you can't or feel like you can't get to where these people are trying to go, you bring them down to make yourself feel better. And it's like, well, those that sort of strive sort of know that they're doing that. And it's just like, man, I'm not here to make you feel better, bro. Like you do you, I'm gonna do me. Catch you later.
It's why I hate those like it may trigger some responses. I don't know, that sort of anti-diet culture that's like, why are you trying to lose weight? Trying to lose weight is fat phobic or whatever you want to come up with. You're fine how you are. Like, hang on, man. Like, you may see that you're okay with how you look, but it's perfectly okay for someone to go, you know what? I've been overweight. I've been in that demographic. I've been in that sort of like category. I want something more for myself. I'm going to acknowledge that I am who I am now, but I want to be something more. Yeah. Well, but it's like you get those demographics, I guess, those tribes that are like, no, that's fucking fat shaming or whatever you want to call it.
Well, it's like people saying it's like if someone's depressed, you tell them to cheer up. It's like, cool. That's really not going to do much. It's like,
thanks, bro. You nailed it.
It's like someone that's stressed, like, calm down. Yeah, cool. Like, I get the sentiment. Thank you. But that's not going to help. Telling someone that thinks, less of themselves in the way they look, regardless of if they're skinny or fat, whatever it is, and you telling them how they look is okay, while is a great sentiment and can understand, the thought behind it, trying to make someone just feel good about being themselves, doesn't normally help the person. Like, the person still wants to either get bigger, get leaner, whatever it is, for themselves, not for anyone else. So it's kind of like, while you're trying to do a good thing, and, I can always appreciate it and be like, like when I get stressed, man, like everyone, what's the first thing that everyone says? Like, calm down. Like, thanks, bro. Like, I get it. But
just relax.
Yeah, like that doesn't help me. Like I appreciate it.
You've just cured 2,000 years of human evolution. Thank you.
Yeah, like I know what you're trying. I know
Wow.
what you're trying to. I know what you're trying to say, and I know it's coming from a good place. However, the execution is poor. Shut the fuck up. Like
here I am writing 14,000 words on it, and you just cured it in one sentence, bruh.
Yeah.
Like
it's like it's like people that oh, like they get, you know, they're super stressed and like internally they're just really like going crazy, and then, you know, like people get angry, for example, and it's like someone telling you, oh, you're angry. It's like, no, I'm good. No, you're angry. I'm telling you I'm good. You telling me I'm angry is making me fucking angry. Yeah.
Yeah. Let it rationalize the fact that person told you you're angry.
And then everything else that's internalized blows up. And then you're like, holy shit, where did that come from? And it's like, that wasn't just because you kept telling me I was angry, because I wasn't. But now I am, and everything else came out with it. You dick.
Yeah. Dude, I've had that. It used to be like such a scapegoat conversation with like exes and stuff in past relationships and things like that, where it'd be like, oh, it's because you're on supplements. Oh, it's because you're taking this. No, it's because you're taking this. Like, you wouldn't be this if it wasn't taking this. And then you just end up letting out. And because you've let out in the scenario where they're talking about blaming that thing, it's like, see, it's because it's like, oh,
yeah,
that is funny. Not what's going on here.
I have that conversation all the time with like Gen Pop people, and they're like, oh, doesn't like steroids make you angrier? It's like, no, if you're an angry person beforehand, it can exacerbate it. But if you're a pretty chill person, you're not going to be pretty chill usually.
Here's how I explain that scenario to people. Have you seen Captain America, the First Avenger? Okay, even if it's the movie version and not the renditions of actual comic canon and things like that. When you see the context and the German doctor describes what the drug does, what his soldier serum does, because it makes a better person, a good person, a better person.
Yeah.
It's why Red Skull turns into Red Skull. It's the embodiment of someone who loses himself and becomes that next level evil after embodying someone who's still already evil. So it's sort of exacerbating the personality and the traits of who you are already underneath and amplifies them to the surface level. Same way with taking, like when Captain America takes it, he's a good person. He's just generally a good person. They're not looking for a good soldier. They look for a good person. Then you take it and he gets a serum and now he becomes the embodiment of freedom and passion and bravery and America all in one.
I was going to say in America.
America. And it's like, it's cool. Okay, cool. So you just got basically presented to you in a comic, in a movie, the general understanding of what can actually happen when you take testosterone.
Yeah.
Fun facts is, I think it's Sapolsky wrote it in his behavior book, and it was actually very interesting read and listen in behavior. Pro-social responses actually came from people who took testosterone in the gambling experiment. People were more likely to give their share of the winning pool. If I'm preempting the study properly, people who took the testosterone were found to accept a mutual split of the money that was from a pool, that if both parties agreed on the split, they would both get it. And if one party disagreed, then nobody got it. People who took testosterone were actually found to be more likely to be happy with a lesser split than those who didn't.
Yeah.
So in the right context, it's actually a pro-social behaving response mechanism that's in the human body. But ironically, people who had pre-negative connotations of testosterone who were given a placebo were found to be worse because they believed already that it was going to give them a bad thing. It was going to be a bad thing and cause a bad response, and then their behavior actually worsened. So ironically, you thinking steroids is bad is bad. Yeah. Actually taking it isn't. Yeah. Depending contextually.
Basically what Ben has just said, if you want to save money and make money, don't take steroids. Otherwise, you're probably going to give it to everyone or take less of it because you're going to be more happy. And if you want to be miserable but rich, don't take steroids.
I mean, yeah, it works. That works.
So which one do you want? You want less money and happiness? Or no, I'm kidding. People are going to start
happy when you be jacked.
It's like, no, we're kidding. We do not endorse taking drugs. Don't do drugs.
Steroid.
Like, wait, steroids aren't drugs. What are you talking
creatine?
about?
We're talking about creatine? Dude, 10 grams a day. What are you talking about?
Mate, easy. Beta-alanine, just fucking send it. Get itchy and shit.
Bro, 20 grams a day, no question. Well, apparently we've been rambling now for like an hour, so we'll say probably 40 minutes. Jesus, we had every week there's just a ramble that just blows time away.
Yeah, time flies when we do ramble, that's for sure. Get onto it. Just like look at the clock. You're like, oh shit, it's nearly been an hour already. What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, you got more to ramble about?
Nah, I've had a pretty chilled week, dude, to be honest. My week's been short of now finding out that we're in lockdown for longer for no apparent reason. So,
I mean,
whatever.
you got your hack squats, so I mean, you at least got something to play with.
Yeah, I do.
Besides yourselves.
Well, I mean, that's only 10 seconds, so there's only 10 seconds.
But 20 seconds of crying.
10 seconds action, 20 seconds crying, and repeat. 10 sets, 10 reps.
Hit training. That's hit
training. German volume training. Literally German volume. Anyway. I mean, it's cool to have the hack squat leg press combo. It's been nice. Sort of played with the hack squat part. I'm going to play with the leg press maybe tomorrow if I can be bothered. We'll see how I feel. Mm-hmm. I am very tempted to get a chest supported row.
Ooh, very nice.
I found one that I really like, and it's quite narrow. It's not overly big, so it'll fit nicely. Because I'm contemplating getting rid of my squat rack. Is where I should probably preface this. I don't use it. It's kind of just taking space. I'm very much thinking getting rid of it, putting in a chest supported row, an ISO row, and then also the one that Tavi got, the bench press, the chest press, and converging chest press.
Yep.
Something like that. His looks a bit shit and cheap, and he was saying it's a bit ish, but I found one or two other ones that are probably a bit better that would fit nicely. So just getting a chest supported row and a converging bench press, plate loaded.
Okay.
Thinking about it, to be honest, and I think that'll probably be it for my garage. I don't think I'll need much more.
Well, I mean, based on what we've talked about before for people asking about squats and stuff, I mean, if optimizing that space for a better piece of machinery, because let's face it, you've got a leg extension, you've got dumbbells, and you've got a hack and leg press converting machine. So, I mean, you don't really need a squat if it's just taking up space.
That's literally what I'm thinking. I've got my cable stack. I've got my Nautilus lat pull down, my Nitro, which is always nice. Mm-hmm. I did find a Nitro row. It's not chest supported, but it's big. That's the problem. It's really long, really bulky.
Yeah, okay.
But it's really nice, and it's kind of like a really.
It's really nice. It's you sound like a girl trying to justify an expensive dress for she'll wear once.
Yeah, I mean, at least I'll use this.
$5,000, and we're gonna have a great night, and I'm not gonna get spilled. I'm not gonna drop anything on it. But it's just really nice. But it's also $5,000, but it's really nice. Actually, right now.
But this is the difference. I'll actually use it weekly. Most females, I am sorry to say, will buy a nice dress, wear it once, and then get scared to wear it again because they will think that people have seen them in it, so they can't wear it again. Don't at me. I'm fucking right.
You need a 4-week rotation window just so they don't catch on.
Not even 4 years, bro.
It's like that episode of The Simpsons where Marge gets that one expensive dress and she just keeps altering it to try and make it look new.
Because it looks different. Thank you. There's no thing that we can talk about that The Simpsons hasn't covered. There you go. It's been done. Simpsons has covered COVID. It's covered pandemics. It's covered everything, including including female fashion. And as much as as a male, I can appreciate the variance and change that you would like to look good every time in something different. You don't need to because guys are stupid. We don't notice it that much.
Nope.
Sorry. We appreciate the effort, but we don't necessarily need you to spend.
Effort's great. We don't really
$500 every 2 weeks on a new fucking piece of clothing to look good in. We appreciate it. You don't need to do it. Save your money. Buy some gym equipment.
Yeah.
Buy the ISO row. Just do it. It'll help.
And then express post it to my house.
100%. Just send it to my garage, please.
Just be like, look, you've saved me thousands of dollars over the year with this piece of advice, so I'm going to repay you by providing the ISO row.
There you go. Look, you build a garage gym, I'll come coach you out of it. Done. Sorted. Fucking easy.
I'll come to you.
Fucking easy.
That's fair. I mean, you want to rip into some questions?
Why not? You get any fun ones?
I mean, I've got a few funny ones. I reckon, we had a serious chat. So I reckon I've got a genuine question from Guy. I think we can both cover from both a psychological and a physiological aspect. And then the rest after that are funny.
Sounds good. What do we got? What are we doing first?
Okay. So first one, we could probably give each other a few minutes to answer it. What should be in place before considering PEDs? PEDs being PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs. Anabolics.
What should be in place?
What should be in place before considering?
Okay, so there's a few things that you could consider depending on the route that you're going with, but consistency in training and nutritional practices to start with. So basically being healthy in all aspects. you need at least a couple of years of that to get it down
Mhm.
pat. Also making sure the goal actually aligns with the use of PEDs,
Mhm.
which is a big one. It's like, you don't need to use PEDs sometimes. It's like, are you willing to risk your health for the goal? Is a big one. Making sure then your internal health is on point. So getting obviously all your bloods done to make sure that you are healthy. And just having a good training age is probably a big one. Being 18, 19 years old, wanting to get on gear, probably not a good idea. You've probably never trained hard in your life. So it's like, actually understand what hard training is naturally first. And actually eating and growing and dieting and doing it without having to use assistance. And then we can consider potential assistance use. The big one for me, I think, is making sure the goal is actually worth the sacrifice and that the person's aware of that.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. I guess the other side of the coin too is being aware of the chemical and psychological implications of using, what it's going to do in terms of body image, self-worth. Like you said, are your goals in line with why you're doing it? Is this something you look at doing long-term? Have you set up the emotional support for off periods? Do you have things in place for TRT? Are you planning on TRT? Are you planning on just cyclically rotating through different esters? Yeah. Have you even looked into this, like this much information?
Yeah, like what's your background education in it, making sure you have some form of education on what the stuff
exactly
does.
Like if you just get
if you want to go down that route, we can get deeper and be like, make sure you've got the funding for it, make sure you've got the funding for the lifestyle that you're wanting to do. So if you're doing bodybuilding, making sure you have money for the other supplements, over the counter supplements, to keep your health in check as well, because just taking anabolics or taking PEDs isn't just going to come by itself. You're going to have to take other things to probably keep yourself in check. Money for food, money for supplements, sleep quality, making sure you like, there's so much.
Yeah. You need to look at it more of like a up and downstream socio-ecological model, in the sense of that once you start down this road, you have to ensure that your life is in line with the reason you're doing it, because it's very expensive, it's costly, it's emotionally taxing, it's physiologically taxing, it's cognitively depreciating. It can have negative effects neurologically in the brain if you're using the wrong substances, if you're not sort of correctly rotating and sort of like cycling them. Are you prepared for the fact that downregulation will happen when you come off? Downsizing will happen when you come off. Is your self-worth associated to your body image and your structure and size? So you spend 5 years or 3 years building up this mass human, and then you decide, you know what, turns out bodybuilding isn't for me. It doesn't really align with what I want to do. I also want to travel and do some other things, so I've got to come off. Are you prepared or emotionally supported enough to do that? Because once you stop, yes, we can hold on to some, and to a degree you can maintain some of it. Muscle memory alone, satellite cells and things like that, you can still maintain and stimulate some growth, but it's going to be not completely, but I guess half, if you're lucky, if you're training well, the effects of what it is when you're on, in terms of strength, in terms of size, in terms of conditioning, in terms of muscle bellies, in terms of like that gravity look that you can develop with PEDs. So if you're not prepared for that, these are all the questions you have to sit down and ask yourself before you start, because like any life-altering event, it's a venture that once you start down, it's hard to come back from if you're not set up for it.
Agreed.
But don't get me wrong, like I'm the first person to I guess, I endorse the fact that bodybuilding and these sort of things can have profoundly positive effects, not to encourage any sort of particular decision either way. But you have to be mindfully aware of what can come from it. Like a bit of background on me was my first experience was after my car injury, and doctors denied all sorts of medication and supplements for me that I thought would be profoundly beneficial to my back injury. I was chronically diagnosed with severe back pain, neurological disorders, sciatica to like the 8th degree. They were more happy to prescribe discectomies and fusions than they were to prescribe things that might assist and improve muscle building. My testosterone levels were completely bunked out, but not enough to get any sort of TRT assistance. I was clinically depressed. I was diagnosed with all sort of emotional sort of issues. Now, I didn't use it to save me. I knew that coming back from this was going to be on my hands, and that what the doctor said is not in line with how I view recovery and sort of a holistic approach to health. And so I ventured down the fact that this will be helping me recover, rebuild, build muscle, build support. And from that, I can build a base to go off. Now, it wasn't going, I didn't look at it as the savior and like the emotional fix and like my images associated to using this. So I set myself up to be in a position where I was going to be in the best place. And that sort of just catapulted me and like sort of snowballed each year as I sort of get more and more invested, more and more committed, more and more disciplined. And it goes from there. But yeah, I'd also been training for semi-professional rugby league. I've been training for, trying to get contracts. I played for football for years, 15 years before I even looked at that type of thing. Training for strength and power output, training for position. So just jump into it. If you haven't considered the up and downstream effects of use is, I would say, negligent and probably bad for yourself.
Yep. Yeah. I got nothing else to add to that. I think we've covered all aspects.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good one. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got nothing to add to that one. Let's have a look. I did put up the Q&A. Let's see what we got. It's always just having to go now back to the stories to actually find them.
All right. I got one in between.
Here we go. You go on.
Would you rather give up your favorite food forever or give up sex forever?
I mean, I'm not really getting laid, so yeah, I mean, that's an easy one. No, that's like from Friends, like food or sex. And I'll do the Joey special, like food, sex, like bread, women. It's like, I want women on bread. He's like, food, no sex, sex, food, no sex. I want women on bread. So I mean, if I have that.
Let's remove favorite food and just say food. Remove the need to eat or the need for sex. I mean, for training, I can't grow without food.
I mean, you can grow without sex.
Exactly. I mean, how serious are you to your goal here?
Well, yeah, right. It's like it does test the limits of what it is that you are willing to do, where you're willing to go to achieve said goal. And we know
the 30 seconds of pleasure that I get versus the years of delayed gratification that come from consistent training and eating.
Yeah. It's like, but in the same that I can get really shredded if I don't eat. So, and just have sex. So it's like, there are positives and benefits to this. Like, do I want to grow or do I want to get absolutely dick skin lean? Like I could get dick skin lean without food. So that's fair. Yeah. I feel like it's going to be a combination of both.
Yeah.
Women on bread.
Women on bread. All right. What do you got?
Mine are always just fucking PEDs, man. Apparently everyone just wants to know about PEDs these days. Hold on. Where is it? Where do they go? Oh, here we go. Got too many fucking things going on here. Okay. Can a high fiber intake have negative impacts on physique?
Ooh. I mean,
high intake of anything can, to be honest. So that's pretty straightforward.
Are you eating how much fiber? You pissing blood or shitting blood? Because that's probably a bit too much fiber.
I mean, again, you will get shredded as fuck, but
you definitely will.
Yeah,
that explosive diarrhea.
Yeah, probably not the most ideal thing to be having too much of anything, to be honest. But you want a balance of both insoluble and soluble fiber in a diet, whether that's for physique, whether that's just general life. The whole point is balance, and the body's always looking for homeostasis. And with the stuff that you eat, both micronutrients and macronutrients, is still a form of balance to be as healthy as possible and as optimal as possible, right?
Yeah.
Fiber is just one of those things.
You definitely don't want to under consume and just end up not being able to process and digest food effectively. Yeah. But at the same time, over consuming and just passing things out or blocking up to the degree that you're just like,
you're on the toilet every 10 minutes. Not ideal.
Yeah. It comes with the issue. Like I saw a post raised about the other day. It's one of the issues I find with people who haven't been in the trenches of it and don't really comprehend it, make these astounding statements like, what was it? A post about if you're your eating disorder around like comp prep foods and stuff like that, trying to satiate hunger. It was like, if you're only eating watermelon or strawberries as your food intake because of like volume versus calories, it's a problem. It's like, well, yes and no, because when you're that hungry, you're going to do anything to minimize that hunger. Now, yes, hunger is acceptable, but at the same time, having fruit that's sweet and high in micronutrients, but also very low in calories, it's fucking phenomenal. So going for something that's like high in fiber and water, like watermelon or strawberries, like I love it. That's what I do. I love that in my diet phases. But at the same time, too much and you can bloat and you're going to look pretty shitty and you're going to struggle to contract and your stomach's going to be off and it'll look watery. So in regards to physique, I guess that's where it comes in, is just being mindful of the fact that having too much, especially when you're people that try and optimize volume of food versus accepting their hunger, will just bloat and just fucking look like crap.
Yeah, there's always a debate about that as well. And it's kind of like, yes, you do need to have volumes of food, to help and like satiating your own appetite and making sure that you feel semi-okay. But at the same time, you still need to accept you are going to be fucking hungry. So get over it.
Yeah.
Well, you got any good funny ones? Because I've got a funny one. You'll appreciate this one.
Okay, I'll go this one. All right. Would you rather be constantly itchy or just have one day a year of excruciating pain?
I'll take the 1 year. I'll take the 1 day of pain, 1 year of pain. The 1 day of pain. My whole life is pain. No,
nihilism.
It's like, wait, you mean that's any different to it is now? Like, what are you talking about? I'm always in pain.
Are we referring to the rash? Are we referring to the rash I've got right now? Because that's itchy year round.
Yeah. It's like that rash downstairs. Anyway. Yeah.
These crabs aren't fixing themselves.
They lied to me about that soap. No, pretty much.
I mean, define excruciating, because I mean, like if you mean like we're sitting somewhere tied up and people are putting like bamboo needles under your fingernails. Ooh, I mean, I'm picking itchy, but
see, it's like I guess you're not wrong in that the severity of the itch each day as well. And does that also mean that if I take my 1 day of pain, I don't get itchy or pain at all for the rest of the year? Because I'll take the 1 day if that's the case.
We need context here. We need
these specific fuckers. One job.
Give us some in-depth contextual situations here that we can understand.
All right, you ready? I got one for you. This is funny. If placebos work 40 to 50% of the time, could I pretend I'm taking roids and get swole?
And get swole. Fun fact. I mean,
yes.
Yes.
Pretend that you're taking roids. I want you to drop sugar pills, think that they're steroids, think that they're Anadrol or Dynavol, and just get jacked. Enjoy. Don't drop too many because you get fucking diabetes.
Yeah. Ends up just palmfuls of fucking just sugar pills. Glucose for the doctor. I mean, I'm gaining weight. Yeah, it's not muscle though.
Yeah, check your blood sugar and it's off the scales. Yep. No,
you have type 20 diabetes.
We're naming this
new types now because of you.
We're naming this type of diabetes after you. Well done. We'll call it the bros with brain diabetes.
It's our version of bulking.
100%. The
issue with placebo that I think a lot of people miss, like, because the evidence around placebo is astounding. It's astonishing of what it does in most instances. There's a lot of research actually that went back into ritual and sacrificial health procedures back in, like, you look at like the Aztecs and the like that sort of pre-civilized society where we didn't have a general concept of science and medicine, but we found all these weird sort of remedies were working. And it actually turns out that or potentially turns out the power of placebo is so strong that they genuinely believed in these remedies and these like health cures and these concoctions they were making, that part of it could potentially have been healing the body based on their simple belief that it was that potent, that strong. That's what it was actually doing. But you're like, when people say things like, oh, if I just believe I'm taking steroids and then I'll just get bigger, you're looking at a conscious level of thought where you're going, oh, I'm just going to tell myself that it's just steroids. It's a lot deeper in a sort of subconscious degree that you have to believe it, which generally comes from how we get to manipulate studies and data, because someone doesn't know. Inadvertently, they don't know that they're taking the placebo, and there's not a part of them that can figure it out. And that's why the study ends up being so controlled and works so well, is that we can manipulate the fact that the blind or the double-blind study means that someone doesn't know they're actually taking the placebo. And therefore, the way they react is how we get to study the data. Like, cool, you thought you were taking it. Turns out that when you think you're drunk, you act like a dick. You weren't actually drunk. You were just like feeling drunk because everyone else said that you were drinking.
It's like, because you're a dick.
Because you're a dick. Let's be real. But yeah, I mean, to the degree, I mean, there's times all the time where you get bunk doses and you get bunk stuff like that, and people grow and put on size and put on muscle. You just have to look at the bloods of like, especially Australian bodybuilding, where like the quality of underground labs is not always the best, and you might get bunk doses, but guys aren't aware and simply train with the belief that what they're taking is profoundly, or efficaciously testosterone.
Yeah.
And they're doing steroids. And so they get this growth, they get this size, their recovery's on point. But then, I mean, to take it to a serious turn, you also have to understand, I guess, the byproduct of the fact that when we start doing these things, you also find that the lifestyle choices tend to support the behavior and improve the outcome. So yes, you're taking them, even though they're false, you're also improving sleep, you're training with better intensity, you're eating more nutritious food and like calorie dense food. So you're stimulating hypertrophy, you're progressively overloading, you're recovering, and you're eating enough food to recover effectively. So whilst placebo works and you're going to train the house down, you think you're going to get jacked and get bigger, you're also doing all the extra stuff
that you need to be doing,
which you need to be doing in the first place before you got started. But like, we digress.
Yes.
So placebo, yes, can work. It is profoundly studied that placebo has great effect on not just bodybuilding either, in all aspects of data. It's what we need to manipulate. But yeah, to take a short answer that was funny and sort of drag it out, yes, you can, but not to the degree you think you're just going to tell yourself to take steroids because you got a pill.
Yes. So then again, just inject bacteriostatic water and same.
Oh God. Just use a 19 gauge needle or an 18 gauge needle. Get a shovel basically and dig it into yourself.
And just straight into the butt cheek, because that's how we do it.
Into the tear duct. Definitely don't do that, by the
way. Again, please guys, do not take drugs.
Okay. Would you rather call Thor, Captain America, or Spidey for backup?
Oh, that's not fair, because Spider-Man's my favorite out of those three.
I know, right?
Okay, again, guys, context. Like,
not the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. If you like Tobey Maguire, punch yourself in the face.
Yeah, who likes Tobey Maguire? Like, come on.
That fucking Spider-Man 3, shut your... Oh, God, it makes me mad.
Why? It depends. Who are we fighting?
Yeah, I guess, I mean...
Like, who's the enemy? Like, are we fighting fucking Thanos? Then I'm calling Thor.
Yeah, fair call.
Yeah. Are we like fighting fucking Shockwave? Then I'm calling Spider-Man. He can deal with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, who are we fighting?
This is the degree that like separates the difference of nerds from just general fans.
Yeah.
Is that there's tiers and scales to the heroes that people don't understand. When we look at like general New York villains, generally you get your neighborhood superhero that might be like the Punisher, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Spider-Man. Although Spider-Man plays a larger role.
Yeah, I was gonna say Spider-Man's probably a little bit above those guys. But I get it.
He does scale. Early editions of Spider-Man, he's a New York villain kind of guy.
Yeah.
But then you start looking at like bigger Avenger level of villains, and you get Captain America to deal with them. Yep. Then you start looking at galactic or like universal threats, and you go to Thor. So it's like people don't recognize like, oh, you know, fucking this guy could defeat Thor in a fight, and it's like, oh man, like,
you don't understand. I know. I argue these people all the time.
It annoys me because like people don't understand. Like the MCU, whilst I hate it. The way people compare it to comics, it is its own universe, so I get that. MCU 616, its own universe.
Yeah,
there's a canon in the comics, the original storyline of the Civil War comics, the graphic novels, and people don't actually quite grasp how strong Thor is, and it frustrates me because like I love Thor, but I love all his I love the greater expansion of Thor's story.
Yeah.
And what happens is Civil War breaks out and Iron Man wants Thor on his side and he's like, oh, fuck, we all need to be online and be in the bill and sign the paperwork and all sort of jazz. Thor is a god and simply just says, I don't have time for this petty bullshit. Like, you're not going to regulate me. I'm Thor. So he leaves. Iron Man, being Iron Man, builds what's called the Thor Buster. So he builds not Thor Buster. He builds a mock Thor. And he builds like an AI Thor that is simply going to act like Thor, do Thor, be Thor, but isn't Thor, obviously. Thor gets insulted by this and it offends his ego because he's like, you think that's how powerful I am? There's literally part of the comic where he comes down, lands, crushes that like Iron Man's number one pride and joy built AI, crushes it, and then picks up Stark and goes, "If you do this again, basically, I'll end you." And Thor, like Iron Man's like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "You think I've been powerful? I've been messing with you this entire time. I'll end all of you." And everyone's like, "Holy shit, Thor's amazing." I'm like, "He's a god. What do you mean? Like, what did you think?" That's how comics work.
And just goes to show how strong his dad was.
Yeah, yes.
People forget.
Like, Odin
was
like,
the bomb.
That's the part that like when you see MCU fans is like, "Oh, I know comics." I was like, yeah.
Well, and that's why
I love the fact that comics are becoming.
That's the other reason why, like Thanos, they show him coming after Odin dies, because that's one of the only people that he was scared of. People don't know this.
That logical theory of the main three preventing Thanos from taking over, which was obviously the Ancient One, Odin, and Ego. Obviously, those three together are superior levels of being to Thanos without the stones. It takes for them to be gone for him to be like, "I'm going to step up."
Yeah,
and like obviously Doctor Strange isn't quite there yet as being the true Ancient One yet. Like he's not quite Sorcerer Supreme. But yeah, so like it gets me because everyone's like, I love comics. I'm an MCU fan. It's like, you're that version of
it's like, are you like, do you know the backstories?
Yeah, Thor's great. Don't get me wrong, but in the movies right now, he's nerfed. He's toned down.
Yeah, so like out of that question, I'm still going to go Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
yeah. After all that, Spider-Man's still my guy. Like I love Spider-Man.
Yeah. There's I think in the 2099 universe, the only statue of a superhero left in New York is Spider-Man. He's voted the world's favorite superhero. Yep.
Everyone loves Spider-Man. You can't not like Spider-Man.
You can't not like Spider-Man.
Yeah. I'm guessing you pick Thor.
I mean, again, it depends on who we're fighting. I mean, if it's just like an ego boost and just have like someone big and fucking Thor behind me, I'm picking Thor because you get a Nordic god to stand beside you and be like, "Hey, I'm Thor." Yeah. But I mean, if it's just cruising through New York, probably picking Spidey.
Yeah, poor Captain America.
Captain America's too American for me.
Yeah, gets nothing. He's too much of a nice guy.
Yeah, bro. America isn't even that free anymore, so let's just show it.
What is freedom? Anyway, what else have we got? Should we do a serious question?
Yeah, why not?
What's the purpose? Oh, here we go. This should be interesting. What's the purpose of AIs? What's their place for women? And are they classed as a PED?
I mean, this is all you, bro.
So what is an AI? An aromatase inhibitor. So really it's only used for guys in that when we take testosterone does aromatize into estrogen. And obviously we as males do not want too much estrogen. So what do we take or what can we take to limit or basically stop the aromatization of testosterone into estrogen? An AI, like nothing really special about that. In saying that, stop taking AIs, you stupid idiots. If you are, you should have a much more balanced stack where you do need estrogen. You just don't need much of it. There's a difference. There's a difference of taking, like completely stopping it and having some. It is still good for the organs. It's quite organ protective. And it is actually pretty good for your fucking metabolism. It actually helps you burn fat. But anyway, has a thermogenic effect. Anyway, we won't get into that side of things. Do women need it? No, because you like estrogen.
Why would you inhibit the thing that you need?
Yeah, I do unfortunately know of some female athletes that have been told to take an AI to limit estrogen to dry them out more pre-show. I actually didn't know this was a thing until probably the last 6 months. So I'm like, Okay. So I can understand it from a male's perspective. Not much, but I guess, see a reason maybe for a girl to limit the real dominant hormone that she requires for really everything. To inhibit it's probably not a good idea. So using an AI as a female, no. Is it classed as a PED? Well, not really, because it doesn't enhance your performance. Not that I'm aware of anyway, to be honest. Like I haven't seen any research that ever shows any inhibitors increase performance. Just trying to think. Like a myostatin inhibitor it doesn't increase performance. It increases your ability to like build tissue because it basically tells your body to not. So myostatin tells your body to stop recovering and building bigger muscles. So if you inhibit that, it's just like keep growing until you die, which is kind of cool.
My statin, when you look at those oversized grown cows in America,
yeah,
those bad boys.
Oof, yeah. I mean,
some
I still don't think it's classed as a PED though, because it's like,
I guess you look at the byproduct effect of having greater muscle size, maybe.
Yeah, but its action doesn't make you perform better.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, anyway, no, AIs I don't believe are PEDs. But
as a guy, though, also like be conscious of the stack you're using, for fuck's sake. Don't just take everything. Like, just be conscious of the androgens versus the testosterone versus what is the aromatization type of the drug that you're using, and also be considerate of the fact that things like high body fat levels do result in things aromatizing. Let's just be mindful of that. It's not hard.
I guess that's another thing for that other question we got in terms of what would you consider being at a healthy body fat level.
Yeah, true. I mean,
forgot about that one. I always forget about that one. Yeah, you have to be at a healthy body fat level to start using PEDs.
Yes, yeah, agreed. Yeah, like jumping at like 15 or 20% body fat and you go straight to PEDs, you get yourself in a better position first. I like the approach of starting lean and building up, or at least getting to a point of being lean to then build up. So if you haven't even gone through a proper cut yet, or you haven't really entered a deficit, I would say hit an 8 to 10% mark. See what your body looks like, see what needs work, assess that situation, and then go, you know what, I'm ready for some PEDs. Then maybe, because chances are you could look at building increased lean muscle tissue so you can improve a lean metabolic rate. So you potentially could offset fat gain anyway, but like be lean first.
Yep, I completely agree with that one. So to answer that question, is an AI PED? Don't think so. Is it good for females? No.
It's like my car runs
pretty straightforward. No.
My car runs on unleaded, but I'm going to use something that inhibits the utilization of unleaded petrol.
Use diesel.
yeah. I'm gonna switch to diesel and block the potential use of unleaded petrol.
And just watch your car blow up.
Legit. I don't know why that's fucked. I'm not using the main source of hormones that it's supposed to use, but I'm blocking those, but I don't get it.
Yeah, there are some stupid people.
Yeah, and that comes back to the coaching and client debate we just had previously.
It's funny how these things just loop back around.
I guess the other side
people,
to that too.
People probably think we actually mean it. We really don't. It just sort of happens that way, and we just roll with it and pretend like we meant it because we're that cool and shit. It's like, no, it didn't happen.
Didn't plan it. So like that's about me. Like that's about me on the plan.
So that's where I'm lucky. I can actually say I was fucking planned. Because again, too much information. My mother had 2 miscarriages before me, so she was attempting to have me. My sister, on the other hand,
we're going for number 3.
Oh, pretty much. My sister, on the other hand, I think she was the mistake. No, I'm kidding. Not that she ever listens to these podcasts, but if you ever do, I love you. I'm sorry.
Hey, my sister said she listened to this. Actually, just gave me like a whole list of like feedback. I was like, oh well, sorry about it, Miss Podcast of the Year.
It's like
right,
you're doing
podcast critique over here.
We're not even related. Shut up.
Giving us a sound score and shit. But on top of that question, the thing too is coaches not upgrading skills or enhancing further learning and things like that. I think if you've got a coach who's stuck in what they think their knowledge is and that's where they stay, you've to loop back to the original point. You've got to be mindful of that as well. Is your coach looking at enhancing education consistently?
Fucking oath, man. I had this conversation. Who did I have this conversation with? I had this conversation the other day. Someone was asking me, it might have been another coach just asking me about upskilling and stuff like that and whether I upskill. I'm like, bruh, I'm like, again, not to toot my own horn, in the last 2.5 years, maybe, I think I've dropped 40 grand on fucking upskilling courses. I only know that because I just did my taxes. So I'm like, it's the only reason why I know. The only reason why I know
if you're the ATO, don't listen to this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like my accountant's like, dude, like what the fuck? And I'm like, yeah, that's what happens and what I do. But like, you want to get better. Like, again, that could be extreme and like it doesn't need to have actually happened. Because in saying that, don't get me wrong, like I spent money on a couple of mentorships in there that were absolutely fucking worthless. And sometimes that happens. Like sometimes you need to spend some money to see what's good and what's bad.
Yeah.
Or you just ask people that have done the actual courses and be like, oh, what did you get? And what did you get out of it? And how do you relate to the person you're asking? Because if you're interviewing people, like I know if I ask Ben, like, how was this course? Me and him are similar enough for me to be like, oh yeah, I'll probably get something out of it. Or he didn't get anything out of it. Good chance I'm not going to waste my money either because we're very similar mindsets. Yeah. So do that, because if you're a coach and you're not upskilling, especially if you're wanting to talk about PEDs and stuff like that, like for fuck's sake, like just go ahead, but the wall 10 sets, 10 reps, make sure it's concrete.
Yeah, I agree. It like even it does like me coaching now is like I haven't really even started taking any clients or like guiding people in things that I want to actually get into. I've done 3 external courses now outside of the fact that I'm doing a $100,000 uni degree. So, I mean, if you also include degrees and like actually getting educated and studied in the field that you're trying to operate and work in, like if your coach is sort of hitting a cert 3 and 4, sort of disrespect coaches, I've done the course. But if that's where you're hitting as like a base and stopping, I think you lose the right to call yourself a coach. Like you're at best like a suboptimal PT.
Yeah, I think by the time I'm done probably upskilling, if it's ever done, like in terms of paying for upskilling, I probably would have spent more on upskilling than I would have on my education, my own degrees.
It's fair. I mean, that's not a bad thing either.
No, it's just sad that you don't really learn much in this field when it comes to university. I feel like it just gives you the ability to learn. It's like, it just teaches you to learn more efficiently.
I mean, from what I've heard from people I've spoke to post-grad, a lot of them have said, if you actually look at wanting to continue psychology and like going into that continue on that realm, most of the learning actually happens after your undergrad. Like,
like on the job.
Most of the undergrad is simply like getting the bells and whistles of what you need to know to pass to get a piece of paper and to sort of like root out the wheat from the shaft and see who actually wants to like continue on. And then you get into your specialty and your postgraduate honors. And then you get into like, obviously your specialized masters. So like, the undergrad is great, by all means, like do it because, you know, do your undergrad, but you have to. But yeah, it's interesting how like most of the real learning from what I've been told comes after the fact.
Yeah. It's going to be fun to hit the real world and be like, shit, everything I learned does nothing for me.
Which is why I think it's important to also do these outside courses. Like I'm doing ACT at the moment. I've done motivational interviewing. I've done behavior change. So
it's just finding the right course and making sure that the courses are credible, or, you know, even if they're not going to give you some sort of official accreditation, doesn't mean they're not good courses. People running them, you know, if they're fucking PhD fucking candidates and, you know, people that have an actual reputation for getting results, for example, like, fuck, why wouldn't you do it? I think I'm subscribed to like 5 websites or 4 websites, all educational, all guys.
Pornhub, YouPorn, RedTube.
No, I jumped on the Pornhub free when it was COVID. Okay, dickheads. No, like, you know, like there's a like. Again,
stop sending me emails. I unsubscribed.
It's one of my other email addresses. Don't worry about it. So it's like we have like my coach Joe Jeffrey's got his website, Physique Collective. Like it's $11 a month Australian, or $12 a month Australian, and it's got some of the best fucking knowledge on there you're ever going to get when it comes to PEDs. It's got an active forum, so if you want questions, ask. They all answer it. The people in there are phenomenal fucking coaches and bodybuilders themselves, and very educated people. Like that alone is all you need. And if you're a coach teaching enhancement practices and can't afford $12 a month to better yourself, you're an idiot.
So that's how I post, like that's how I pose my book when I say to people like, what is it for $10? I'm like, we're not going to call it $10. It's 2 coffees for literally a completely alternative perspective on how you understand stress in life at the moment. So like,
exactly.
If you don't think 2 coffees is worth that, I guarantee you don't appreciate how important stress is. So,
exactly. It just shows you how expensive fucking coffee is.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're willing to pay that for coffee, for just 2 coffees versus almost a lifestyle change of understanding perspective on stress, where do your priorities lie in actually understanding things and wanting to get better?
You're not wrong, man. You're not wrong.
But I mean, we have rambled now for a good 90, I would say, overall.
Yeah. We talk a lot. We could be here for another 5 hours if we really wanted to.
This is why coaches suck.
It's like this is only point 1. We haven't got to point 2 yet. To be continued next week.
Actually, before we leave, booked in for next week is actually gonna be a pretty special episode, I think, which will be pretty interesting. Whether it's educational or piss takery or like how serious it gets, I don't know yet.
All of the above.
All of the above. You're probably gonna get 3 of the smartest minds, and then
smartest minds, and then someone who thinks LeBron is better than Jordan.
Okay, I'm taking Tabby. Okay, yeah, there. So we get 3 smart minds, and then some guy who thinks about LeBron too much.
Yeah, he's got an OnlyFans subscription.
So next week we've got 2 guests for the first time on, which will be exciting. We've got two of our both really good friends, Dalton and Tavi, coming on for, I guess, a bit of a round table, sit and chat shit excuse for 2 hours.
Should be interesting. Does that mean Dalton's just going to share rooms with you as well and jump on it, or?
I was hoping he was going to sit on my lap. And
I was just going to say, you may as well just both use the same fucking mic.
Yeah. I just hope he wasn't going to wear underwear, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. I mean, like I said, it's business upstairs, party downstairs, bro.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It should be fun. So like a little bit of backstory is actually me, Scaff, and Tavi have all been coached by Dalton. And essentially just created a bromance of 4 dudes who shouldn't be alone together.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a bad porno.
It's very rare you get like 4 smartish dudes, 4 smartish guys who also exist in the fitness industry who also don't like dumb practices.
Yeah, like I feel like the episode should just be called like 4 dudes, 1 mic. 4 bros, 1 mic, or some stupid shit. But anyway, do you have anything coming out soon? I feel like you did, or am I going crazy?
No, we do. Uni has just gotten a little bit full on, so there are a few processes that are just getting finished that we'll be editing to put up. Next stages of ebooks. So I've done a bunch of blogs. So the next thing to focus on after the stress books come out is I'll be finished off a few ebooks for either individual purchase or to put into bundles for collective purchase as well as a program.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good. I think I'm going to be launching my interactive classes whenever they decide to come out.
Oh, very nice.
Next couple of weeks, I think I'll be launching that. And I will be launching actually a little program of myself that I'm still playing with the name. I want to call it the Elite Strength Protocol. To be honest, I kind of like it. All in
20 mils a week, starting with testosterone.
And if you fail a lift, it's an extra mil. Of the compound that you're choosing. So yeah, I think the Elite Strength Protocol, I'm just going to sort of systemize my approach a bit more and sell it as a bit more of a product, but at the same time, it is still coaching in its essence. So you will be working one-on-one with myself, or potentially I might be hiring a new coach because Ben turned me down because he's a bitch. So if you know anyone that's better than Ben, let me know.
anyone else, anyone. Don't put me in charge of people.
Send me your mum, your dad, your cousin, your uncle, your dog, whatever. I don't care. I'll take it. So yeah, that'll be hopefully happening in the next 4 or so weeks. So hopefully by the end of this month, I'll have a new coach on with some clients, which would be cool.
Awesome.
Because I am at capacity. Or at capacity.
Before jumping off, so those books I was talking about, I think you've done. Well, you may as well give me some on-live feedback. You've done the purpose one that I sent out, which is a big one that I'm really excited to dive into. How did you find this?
If you want to deep dive into your own emotions and brain and like want to like fuck yourself up, do it. No, I'm joking.
Sold. Right. So ask someone else for feedback next time.
Yeah. Dude, I came to you because I couldn't understand abstract thinking, and you're asking me to give you feedback on abstract thinking. Like, what do you think? No, it's good, man. Abstract thinking. No, it's good. Like you, like I said, like the stuff we were talking about. Was it with the habit forming? Was it habit formation? No. What was it? Or timing, being better with your time, like creating like habits, and I can't remember what we're talking about. Something like that.
Yep.
And it's like being honest with yourself is probably the biggest thing. So that's the hardest part, and like really looking at some internal reflection, and really, are you doing what you're doing, or are you doing it for the sake of doing it, and that sort of stuff. That's where it was big, because a lot of people, like especially now being at home, like they think they work. That's like, are they working? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And once I sort of changed that mindset shift, that's when like I became way more productive, and it was a benefit for me because I ended up getting more business. So it allows me to do these podcasts and talk absolute shit, which is cool. So yeah, you want to do a podcast? Do his course. There you go.
Before we continue rambling for 4 hours, that's great. I appreciate it. I have a massage to go to at 3:30. So
fucking here he goes, big boy, just because he can go out and get fucking massages and we can't in Victoria, whatever.
Well, I mean, you can go to brothel, so it's the same thing, right?
You can. Be right back. Imagine going to a brothel saying that. Look, I just need a deep tissue massage. I don't need anything else. Like, I'm just coming for a fucking massage. In a better way. Yeah, I don't need any of that. Just give me a fucking massage. I need someone's elbows in my back.
Anyway. All right, I have to jump. It has been fun chatting to you, my man.
Thank you. Thanks for the guys for tuning in, and we'll chat to you next week.
next week. Can't wait.